Welcome to yet another episode of the League of the Genuine. This opens our Christmas break conversations. As you can hear, I think I need to put this off. Okay, so this is the first episode that we're holding to mark the beginning of the festive period. It's Christmas in December, but sometimes it begins earlier. And we are continuing the conversation about counterfeits, fake, substandard, which is rampant in the market. I have an interesting guest, my friend here, Joel Lloyd
Yeah,
Bellinson.
correct.
Joel Lloyd Bellinson. Joel Lloyd Bellinson has so many titles. He claims to be a factory automation engineer. He's an author, he's an inventor, he's an entrepreneur, he's a biochemist, and the list goes on and on. Joel, welcome.
Thank you. Wibale.
Webale, you can speak local language.
Mani bigambo en kumibiri muluganda bioka. Si Benji, but
Oli Muganda.
Yeah, musaja waka waka. Kamu goya muganda.
Kamugwe Muganda.
Yeah.
One by one makes a bundle.
Exactly. Or akwatempola tukawala.
Atrukawala. Joel is somebody who has lived in Uganda for how many years now?
I first set foot in the country in 2007, the day of the Mabira forest riots. And the same year that Chogam happened. So it was the year Uganda opened up to the world again.
So that's when you also came.
Yes.
During that time. Now, Joel, you have an interesting background. You are American Canadian entrepreneur working here, but you also have you're Jewish at the same time.
Yes.
And many of us, of course, many people here are Christians, so we have a reverence for the Jews, God's chosen people. These guys are too clever. Are you Jews too clever?
Too clever. All right. Well, we've had to be smarten up. We often make mistakes, but we've been around a long time, right? We've had UPE for 4,000 years.
The Jews have had UPE for 4,000 years.
Yeah, that's a huge advantage I've discovered.
So that's what makes you clever.
It helps. We had literacy before anybody else did. I mean, the Chinese, the Persians, Sumerians, whoever, they only had an elite caste who could read and write. For Jews, no matter if you were rich or poor, if you were a rabbi or not, everybody had to learn to read and write, and that wasn't even enough. We joke among Jews that if you put any two of us in a room, there'll be at least three opinions. So we value argument. That kind of defines...
And reason.
Yeah, logic and reason, and not wasting time asking stupid questions.
So you don't gossip a lot.
Gossiping is considered evil.
Gossiping is evil.
We call it Lashon Hara, the evil tongue. I remember my rabbi once holding up a pillow with goose feathers inside, and he ripped it apart. The whole synagogue was filled with goose feathers, and he said, "See, when you spread gossip, this is what you have done. And whether you spread truth or untruth, now you can never put it back. Now you've done huge damage. So be very careful."
Like the Muslims would say. So gossiping among the Jews is haram.
Yeah, I mean, people still do it, but that's when, because we're not perfect. And we have our times when we are not acting in the right way, but that we are commanded. It's part of the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Right? It's right there.
I find Joel, just help us understand. The Jews have a very unique lineal system. It's not patrilineal.
Yes, it's based on our mothers.
So your mother is Jew or your father is Jew?
Both. My lineage on both sides is Jewish, and my mother's side is the line of David.
King David.
Yes.
The one we read about in the Bible.
Yes, I'm one of the last. I mean, that's her maiden name is David. So
So inside you have King David's blood.
Apparently, yeah. I haven't really, I don't know how to test him. But but the name has been carried on, and there's only a small percentage of Jews that are descendant of that line remaining.
So, but why is it that you as the man cannot your lineage doesn't matter among the Jews. Why is it for the
I
for
think
the
it was
mother?
because they only knew.
It's the reverse in many cultures.
Well, I think for Jews, it's the only thing you truly know is who the mother is, right? There wasn't DNA testing back then, so how would you know where the child really came from, right?
So the father wouldn't know. It's the mother who knows.
Only the mother bore the child, right? How can that be disputed?
But who the father is always
it's ambiguous, especially without DNA testing. Yeah. So it was a wise way to track, and then Jewish women play very important roles, even in the Old Testament. It's just, even African Jewish women, like Zipporah, Moses.
African Jewish women.
Like Zipporah, Moses' wife, right?
Was an African.
Yeah, she was black. She was Cushite. And she threatened to kill him if he did not go back to Egypt to liberate his people. So it was a black African woman who was married to Moses. They made children together.
So do we have black Jews? I hear some.
Of course there are. Famous ones. Very
Like who?
famous ones. Lenny Kravitz, the musician, right? His father, okay, so by Jewish law, maybe we'd argue about it. Because his father was Jewish, his mother was
I mean,
black.
like from biblical times, like in the Bible. Are there black Jews?
Why
there?
wouldn't there be? I mean, Moses' children were black, right? They were a mix of whatever his Semitic look and a Cushite look. His children, Moses' children, are part of the Jewish people.
So you have black Jews. It's not faking when somebody says I'm a black Jew.
Well, it may be. I don't know about each individual.
But they are there.
They
Yeah.
exist. I mean, Ethiopia was a Jewish kingdom, right? The first king was Menelik, and he was the son of King Solomon and Queen Sheba. So Ethiopia was Jewish, and then it went through forced conversion against the Jews, and then Queen Judith was a warrior, and she brought back the Solomonic dynasty. And the Rastafarians and from Jamaica.
Rastas are Jews.
Yeah, that's how they see themselves. They see the last king of Ethiopia, Haile Selassie, is the last of the Solomonic line. And even Bob Marley's father was Jewish.
But Bob Marley wasn't a Jew because the mother wasn't.
No, but what he sang about was about Judaism all the time. I would say 2/3 of his songs are Jewish themes.
These days we have a lot of challenges, even in our religions. It's no longer easy to tell what now Christianity is standing for, what is pure. You have, bishops or pastors or religious people doing fake things and so on. Now, I want to know, is there a difference between you guys, the Jews, Judaism, and Christianity?
Well, we're very old, right? Let's start off with
Is there a difference?
Well, of course there are differences. But let's start off with just, Judaism, the time of Moses, is 2,000 years before Jesus. That's a long time, right? So half of our existence came before Christianity, right? So Christianity is new. Islam is even newer. To us, we're very old people. We're the oldest tribe in the world, right? We've outlived every empire and kingdom that has tried to conquer us, or even the Nazis that killed off my whole family in Europe. We've come back stronger because we thrive on being scorned. I think the more people hate us, the stronger we become, and we get chased all over the world, and it's just exposed us to more and more cultures where we've absorbed what we hope are the good things, and we recombine them into our culture. Judaism has a tradition of reforming tradition. It's built into our celebration of Passover. There is a moment called the 4 questions, where the youngest in the room is supposed to ask in the most militantly disrespectful way of all the elders, why the hell are we doing this? And basically challenging the whole principle of the holiday. So the elders have to defend. So we build, even think about, the story of Jacob, right? He wrestles with an angel of God. And afterwards he's renamed Yisrael, which means God wrestler, right? We're the stiff-necked people. So we even wrestle with God, but God's inside of all of us. And that may be the big difference between Judaism and Christianity, or one of the big differences.
Do you, for example, celebrate Christmas?
Why not? It's beautiful. It's fun to celebrate. I celebrate many cultures' holidays. I don't mind that at all. There's nothing negative in it. Jesus is my uncle.
It's not on the Judaism calendar, but you celebrate it.
I personally do. I know
No, I'm
many
saying,
Jews
is it
do.
part of Judaism, Christmas?
No. I mean, because we don't worship people, right? Remember, Abraham destroyed the idols, so we consider worshiping humans to be idolatry.
Oh, Christmas is not about worshiping people. It's about...
It's the birth of Jesus, which he's my uncle, right? I'm line of David, so he's my great whatever to the 100th power uncle. So it's family.
Jesus is your uncle.
Yeah, why not? I mean, of course. So that's how I see it, and I see him as obviously a righteous man, a great man, someone to be respected and revered, but not worshipped, because humans are always flawed, whether we know it or not. Moses was flawed. Jacob was flawed. Everybody in the Bible was flawed. There's no perfect person, so we don't worship them.
Joel, a lot of the teachings we have among the Christians talk about hell, heaven.
We don't believe in that.
You don't believe in hell and heaven?
There is no mention whatsoever in the 5 books of Moses of hell. Never once, not one word. There's only one reference to what you might say is heaven. In Hebrew, it's ha'olam haba, the world to come. And
The Bible has heaven, doesn't it have heaven there?
No, it's called, like I said, it's called ha'olam haba, the world to come, and it's given no description. Even by the time of King Solomon, in his Ecclesiastes, he refers to death as the no place, Sheol. There is no work, there is no planning, there is no nothing. So Jews believe in life, and that's what we focus on, and the immortality of our people. So we have an obligation to survive, to succeed and help our children succeed, and then to repair a broken world, tikkun olam.
But we Christians, the notion of life after death is very, very important.
I know, so that's one of the same.
So you don't believe in death?
Well, we don't focus on it. I mean, I'm sure everybody wants to feel that their spirit somehow lives on, and I think that's somewhat there, but I think it's more of Judaism absorbing some of Christianity into it as they wandered through Europe, and when before that were conquered by the Romans. So it's it's not a fixation for Jews of this question. The real thing is life. So everything we do, it's about l'chaim, to life. And even when we atone for our sins on our high holiday of Yom Kippur, we ask to be written in the book of life for one more year. And so that is our sincere wish, is just to keep on living. And then our people, we want to see the Jewish people be eternal and last forever. So it's a tribal philosophy. We are a tribe. So we're an Afro-Asiatic philosophy. From what I've looked at, and even Greco, we incorporate aspects of African culture, Asian cultures, Greek culture, because we constantly being exiled and returned and chased, and then we come back, right? Even Uganda has a diaspora, so they've gone to many countries, and when they come back, they bring whatever they've learned to Uganda too, right? So, but imagine doing that for 4,000 years.
4,000 years. So Judaism is a way of life.
Yeah, it's a way of life.
So that means I can embrace it.
Of course.
And today I become a Jew. Can I become a Jew?
Yes, the different branches of Judaism, just like Christianity has sects of Protestantism, and whether you're Baptist or Methodist or whatever, Judaism has its reformist factions, conservative, Orthodox. Like I said, put any 2 Jews in a room, you'll have 3 opinions.
So I can become a Jew. Anybody can become a Jew?
You have to find a rabbi. Find a rabbi, they'll give you guidance of how you study and how you prepare, and then they are, I guess, the gatekeepers for deciding who gets to become a Jew. There are disputes about what should be counted. As you rightly pointed out, we're a matrilineal culture. Now the question is, in modern times, I don't know if it's really new, it's probably been common, but many people are descendants of Jewish fathers, and those are not counted. So there's been just very recently in Israel, they're talking about counting the children and descendants of Jewish fathers as well as the Jewish mothers. But that will be an earthquake.
That's very interesting. How can I have children who are not of my lineage? It's quite interesting. But we're going to take a break. Before we go for the break, the relationship between Uganda and Israel, if you go 40 years back or so, was a bit hostile.
Yeah,
You guys came and raided
the raid on
the airport here.
Yes.
Were you part of the Israelis who came to raid?
No, first of all, I was born in the U.S., in Los Angeles. I was 12 years old, and it was just mind-blowing that had happened. Actually, was I older? No, 76, right? So I would have been 13 or 14. But there was several years of my childhood which were all dominated by conflict with Israel, right? The Six-Day War, the Yom Kippur War in 1973, the massacre at the Munich Olympics, where all the Jewish athletes were killed by the Palestinians. So I remember it every year in the summertime was always miserable with my father because he was always very disturbed about all the wars that we were in.
That were going on. When we come back, Joel, we're going to be talking about the relationship between Israel and Uganda. There are many Jews here even during Amin's time. That's why the raid took place. And you have been doing interesting things here in Uganda. So when we return, Joel will be telling us about what he has done around COVID, for example, and vaccines in Uganda.
Okay.
Welcome back to the second segment of our interesting conversation here with our guest, Mr. Joel Lloyd Bellinson. Mr. Joel Lloyd Bellinson is an American, Canadian, Jewish entrepreneur, inventor here in Uganda. I was looking at your CV here. Between 2018 and last year, you were the CEO of a startup, Day Pharmaceuticals. And you are very much in the news for coming up with an anti-coronavirus sanitizer.
That's right.
And I remember during that time, there was some gentleman who visited from the States.
Yes, Dr. Nyazi from University of Illinois, Chicago.
Dr. Nyazi. And I remember seeing a picture going viral. That person visited the speaker then.
And the president.
And the president.
Yes.
And the news was that you had got a sanitizer that kills the coronavirus. So for those who don't know what your role was or participation in this, can you just help to clear the air on what this sanitizer was about? What is it exactly that was offered?
It was a great sanitizer.
What was it called?
Covanil.
Covenil.
C-O-V-A-N-I-L.
Covenil.
And it's a great sanitizer. It didn't dry out your hands, and the EU said it was the fastest at killing the coronavirus than any other sanitizer that had ever been tested. So it was a great product. Unfortunately, it got swept up into the fear. And I think people wanted to feel empowered that Uganda could do something to protect itself. And I think that's where the speaker's heart...
Were you among, as CEO, were you with Dr. Nyanzi to go and see the president?
No, I was not there.
But you know about that visit?
I found out when I when I came to work. I thought, the reason why Nyazi was coming was he has over 100 patents, and a few of them I really wanted so that we could make our own insulin here and our own monoclonal antibody anti-cancer drugs here. Because the goal of the business was to make all of our essential medications that Uganda needs locally, but to global standards. so we could export. So I wanted him to help me, and that's why he came. I didn't know that he had developed this new product. I showed up on Monday and found out all of this had happened and was told I need to build out a small factory to make the sanitizer. So I started doing that. Meanwhile, the public relations engine of gossiping and etc. exploded, and I realized even doing this, I'm trying to clear the air. So yeah, it was very effective at killing viruses, but you would never drink it, right? You don't want it in your body. I mean, that's...
So it could not heal somebody who was sick from corona?
No. It was never meant to. It's meant to clean surfaces, your skin, tables, chairs, whatever. The same thing we use sanitizers for. It's just a very fast, very powerful sanitizer that didn't dry out your hands, left them feeling very nice. And it was an excellent product, but I think the professor who visited, when he showed all the intellectual property that he was going to bring to this company, the president and speaker and everybody got so excited because I think...
And that's where maybe
they got over-exuberant. I think it was an over-exuberance. And
some wrong information came out.
Yeah, I think saying, oh, it kills the virus didn't really clarify, because people need to know, yes, it does kill viruses on surfaces, but you can't drink this. It would kill you.
But I think there was even some talk at that time of a vaccine, that it would, was it a treatment or a vaccination for the...
There was all kinds of ambiguity about what we were offering, and I tried to clear it up as much as I could. I got on James Onen Fat Boy's show, and I got on Patrick Kamara's radio show, and I tried to speak very clearly. I go, look, it is not a vaccine. It is not a treatment. It is not a cure, but we're hoping that it plays a role in breaking the transmission. And so that was the objective of the sanitizers. And the reality is the virus is going to keep on evolving to become easier and easier to transmit. So it's kind of I believe in the end we're either going to be infected or injected. There's no other way. And obviously even being injected doesn't protect you long either. But it does reduce your risk of dying.
So from that experience around that time when you were with Dai, I am sure you bore the brunt of fake news, the fake information out there. To what extent do you think fake news is hurting us, or fake information?
Well, fake information and inappropriate information, both. I think, like for example, Uganda, I don't think had to follow the example of the UK or US. I don't even think they should have done what they did. I don't even agree with what Israel did. But I think our situation here is very different. We have young population. There's very little obesity in Uganda, and obesity is the number one cause of death for COVID. And then after that is fear disorders, and then it's diabetes and high blood pressure and high cholesterol. So a lot of it is we need to take better care of ourselves. And I myself have been losing weight to try to be less of a victim. So I really liked that the president exercised on national television. I think that was the greatest thing any world leader ever did in this crisis. I think he's the only one who did.
So you think that fake information, misinformation is affecting our embracing, for example, of the vaccination program, of the SOPs? You think this is playing a role?
Well, I think it plays on triggers, right? A lot of misinformation is designed to trigger emotions, right?
So, yeah, but is it affecting the success, for example, of the call for people to go for vaccination?
I don't know. I'm sure some of it, there's a lot of fear, right? There's the pro-vaccine people in Britain and Australia and America that are like so extreme. They want to pin people down and wrestle them to the ground and stick a needle into them. I don't agree with that. But then the other side are the people terrified of vaccines, and I think they go to the opposite extreme. So I'm not an extremist on either of these. I think the best thing people should be doing is to take care of themselves, to exercise, go out in the sun and go for a walk, and eat less junk and drink less alcohol and soda. Coca-Cola is giving people diabetes, and diabetes is a big cofactor for COVID. So we know the reality is you eat a lot of sugar and junk, eat late at night, sit on your butt all day in the office or in the car or on the couch, worrying, you're more likely to get sick, right? So,
Joel, talking about fake information or fake news in relation to COVID and the health sector, don't you think that you could be accused of propagating also fake information? I've seen a video where you have said that vaccines came from Africa, and yet the reality we see is that African governments are busy lining up, soliciting for vaccines from the West and so on. So if the vaccines were ours and they came from here, why do we have to look for them elsewhere? Can you explain this thing? Is it reality or a myth? Did vaccines come from Africa?
Yes. So, well, at least I know they came to America from West Africa. There was a slave named Onesimus in Boston who introduced the principle or the technology of a vaccine, the idea of exposing person to a little bit of the pathogen, of the threat, which is a very counterintuitive idea, right? And I think it speaks interestingly to African culture of facing up to danger and using that danger to strengthen themselves. So after that, Europeans developed microbiology. They understood why it was working, and then they refined these. And we've had many generations of vaccines since then. But the first introduction of the principle of a vaccine to America was from an African. And
so you're crediting that West African with that invention.
Well, I don't know if he invented it, but at least he spread it.
He's part of the invention.
He's part of the process. He spread it to America. It was a big controversy then, too. It was a big controversy in Boston. A lot of people did not want to get vaccinated. They feared they would die. And also there was racism, right? And there was a white man who was promoting this, and the African man was a slave of his. And he promoted.
So he couldn't take the credit for that. So that.
No, I think they did give him credit. No, he got credit, and that was part of the problem. Because of the racism, they didn't want to embrace it. So there were riots over it, and in the end, it saved the city. A huge percentage of Boston died anyways. I think 15% in 1720 or so. I forgot what year, but in the early 1700s. So 15% of the population died, but it would have been much worse had that guy not, gotten some people to do it.
So because Africa is lagging behind in patent registrations, innovations, we have less than 2,000 patent applications and registrations by indigenous Africans. And so this might be as a result, maybe, of the stealing of a lot of these patents and intellectual property that came from Africa. Would you subscribe to?
Well, there's biopiracy that occurs, as they call it. So the requirements for getting a patent, you have to prove originality, that there isn't existing prior art. You have to show, enable other people to do it. So the technologies keep on changing. So as those technologies change, those are new patent opportunities. And so is that theft, that somebody developed something on top of someone else's idea? I think that's how all of invention happens. I think, we all build on top of each other. We're all standing on the shoulders of dwarfs, no matter how giant we are in our contributions.
Because without the intellectual property registrations, either as a trademark or a patent or an industrial design, then you're not going to have the protection.
Correct.
Of your invention,
and
your
if you
idea.
Go ahead and you talk about it at a seminar, or you put it on your blog post.
Then somebody copies it.
Well, even if they don't copy it, you've now ruined your ability to protect it. It's now no longer treated it's part of prior art. So when the patent offices evaluate a patent, they go, well, anybody could have learned about this on the internet already. Why, you already gave a speech about it. You revealed it before you filed the protection. I filed many patents, so if Ugandans need help, I can help them with patents on any topic.
But it's a complex process, a lot of detail. And
there's a lot of detail in knowing what is truly patentable.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people think they have a new idea, and it turns out it's not new. And it's either already been patented or it's off patent. It's already in the public domain, or research was done at a university and they published a paper, and the patent office is going to say, well, this is not original. This is not new.
Joel, we have to take another break, but when we return, I have seen on your CV that you have helped, especially the hospitals, on ISO 9000 certification.
Yes.
So when we come back, you'll be telling us the relationship, what ISO 9000 certification does in fighting fakes or counterfeits in the health sector where you have worked.
Okay.
When we return. This is the last and final part of our discussion here on the League of the Genuine with Joel Lloyd Bellinson, an American, Canadian, Israeli entrepreneur who lives and loves Uganda. You love Uganda?
Indeed.
Why? Why do you love Uganda?
I see so much potential. I see so much unused genius that people are not able to be consolidated to do great things, but I know they have that potential. Because a Ugandan was my chief engineer at my company that assembled and annotated the human genome, right? We beat every country and company on planet Earth. And that team, the chief engineer was Edward Chiriluta, a Ugandan from Masaka. And so I know there's greatness here. And
yeah, so the Ugandans who are feeling hopeless or they don't see a future, that is a myth.
Well, they do feel hopeless. There is a lot of hopelessness right now, all around the world. The lockdowns have crushed many people's spirits. So that's not fake, that's real. People feel it. They're in debt, they burnt up their savings, the kids who missed school for 2 years, they don't know what to do.
The schools are opening, but most schools are bankrupt.
Yeah, so people are lost. They don't know what direction to take now. And then, the world's shifting. The US and China seem to be getting a divorce. And we're getting, no one wants to take custody of us as children. So
we're going to be orphaned.
Or fought over, one or the other. The US doesn't want to play world policeman. It seems like Egypt and Turkey are going to fight it out all throughout Africa. Right? They're already fighting in Libya and Yemen and Sudan and Ethiopia and Tigray. And so if the U.S. is too tired to be world policemen, which is...
Then that's an issue.
Then we're going to have regional
and
problems.
Yet, amidst all this chaos, you have been doing some good work here.
Thank you.
You have done some work for Case Hospital, Zambia Hospital, Mildmay Hospital, Victoria Hospital, in helping them to be ISO 9000 certified.
Yes, for their laboratories.
So what does that mean?
So one of the things that's been an issue for me for a long time is the speed and reproducibility of laboratory tests. Right?
Lab tests.
Lab tests. Because that's where it all starts, right? When you go to the
diagnosis.
The diagnosis is going to be based on the tests, right? And if they take long, or if the results are not reliable, then it's a big problem. And so I tried to introduce a new label technology where the labels wouldn't fall off in the freezer or get smeared, become unreadable, because that's what we had happen in America in the 1980s until we switched to better labeling technology. So I introduced that. I started a small company to do that. So I know lab tests have to be done efficiently, and if you don't calibrate your equipment correctly, you can get bad results. And that you could either get a scare you shouldn't have, or you get complacency you shouldn't have. You may have a problem you don't know because it doesn't show up, or you may fear you have a problem that you don't really have. I've had that happen. Even I won't mention institutions, but I went for a vitamin B test and showed that I had like no vitamin B in my body, and it turned out it was just the chemicals they were using in the testing machine had expired and they needed to use new ones. So anyways, so I feel like, that's where it all started. I'm a lab technician at heart, right? I was a lab tech at the Carnegie Institution, and that's why I invented a lot of things. I made the first PCR robot back in 1987. And
PCR.
PCR.
This used for they said the PCR COVID test.
Yeah. So
you made that?
Well, PCR as a technology was invented by a guy named Kerry Mullis, who's now dead, but also lived in the San Francisco Bay Area. And it was something we did manually. We would move test tubes to different temperatured water for different lengths of time. And it's very boring. So I built a robot that could rotate and drop the tubes into the...
You have a patent for that?
No. I just built it to use it. I wanted to be more efficient in my lab work. I was just bored sitting there with a stopwatch, moving tubes all the time for hours and hours. You know how they do the cycles, 30 cycles, 40 cycles. Wasting 4 hours of your life moving tubes from different temperature water to the other. I go, any monkey can do this. Let me build a robot. So I built a robot.
So back to the ISO certification. So you feel that this certification helped in health service delivery? Specifically, did it stop fakes in the health supply chain?
Well, I don't know about supply, but it may. But at least I hope it helps people getting misdiagnosed.
Misdiagnosed, yes.
Because that's I think the biggest problem. Now, what causes the misdiagnosis? There's many things.
It's the wrong results. Or if the results are lost or stolen, they mix up.
Or just a machine that wasn't recalibrated, right? If maybe it got overheated. And because it got overheated by running all day, now its results end up wrong. And so it's just you have to have standard procedures and abide by them so that you can reliably get results, right? Otherwise, the results are not reliable.
But the practice, there's some unethical practice by some medical practitioners who give fake results. Well, because somebody goes and does a deal with the lab and they will turn the result negative or positive depending on...
Well, as we know in every profession there are...
So this ISO doesn't stop that?
Well, you can't regulate morality.
Okay.
Ethics and morality have to be inside you. Because if someone wants to do something evil, they'll find a way to do it. I mean, and the law won't be able to keep up with it. So in the end, we have to just internalize better ethics. I don't think you can legislate ethics. It has to be inculcated by parents in their children to set good examples of being ethical people. Unfortunately, we see in America and all over the world unethical people getting wealthy, and that is seductive, right? People feel, all right, well, if cutting corners and whatnot can make me rich, then they'll do it. If you don't have the ethics that restrain you,
becomes an issue for the medical world.
There are doctors that just basically give diagnoses so they can sell medications, right? And sometimes it's done. The doctors are under pressure too, right? They're at risk of lawsuits. So they do a lot. And my father talked me out of being a doctor. He was a doctor and the founder of my city hospital. And he said, look, I spend a third of my time ordering tests and procedures and prescriptions that I don't think the patient truly needs. But if I don't give them to them, then I'm open to being sued for not having tried everything. And so I'm like, and he says, so I already am. He already was feeling like he was part of a complicated situation that he was caught in the middle of. and that he was having to order all these extra tests, procedures, and prescriptions.
Yeah, like there's a case I know about of some doctor who was arrested for putting a family planning, I don't know, pill or something.
Oh, they were trying to.
And then the lady had just married, and after inserting the pill, whatever it is, and then she passed out. And then the doctor was arrested. I think it's a case that is ongoing. So just to reinforce the point you're saying, that doctors are under pressure.
They're under huge pressure from litigation. My father said he was spending a third of his time just making sure that he was judgment proof in case
checking everything, run every test, even when it's not needed.
When he thought it was like a 99% probability of being useless, but he felt he had to do it just to cover
because
his bases.
If it didn't, and something happened,
he could be sued for malpractice, and they have to pay
or negligence.
Or negligence, and medical errors happen. It's like one of the biggest causes of death in the U.S. is medical mistakes, mislabelings of medications, accidentally wrong prescriptions. Because doctors are not perfect. No one's perfect.
So that cannot be cleaned out by any certification, ISO, whatever. That has got to come from the person.
I think a lot of things have to come within, come from within. You have.
Then there is this notion of doctors must save life. They took that oath, Hippocratic oath, service above self. So like now we have the interns striking for pay and laying down their tools. What's your comment on that? You think
I don't
have a right?
I don't want to get involved in the politics of it, but I do know there was an interesting study several years ago in Uganda that showed that if doctors and nurses each got an extra $100 a month, that the death rate from malaria was cut in half. So,
and you're talking of hundreds of thousands, maybe.
Yeah,
that are dying from malaria.
Because when you have your doctors and nurses struggling to survive and pay their bills,
how will they concentrate
distracted. Yeah, they're worried. I mean, and then because I used to build gasifier stoves, right, for my biomass company, and I'd be in Katwe, and I would see medical grade oxygen cylinders that had to have come from hospitals. So I'm wondering, all right, so some nurse may have sold an oxygen tank to a welder, and just because she's so desperate to make some extra money. And so you can see how...
So you're saying it's not unethical for the doctors to demand for a reasonable pay. That's what you're saying.
Well, everybody should be earning a decent living. I don't want to get into a battle over...
who is right, who is wrong.
But I think if people who we are relying upon to
save our lives,
they shouldn't be worrying about surviving themselves. Now, my father told me he became a doctor because he grew up in the Great Depression in the 1930s. And he said he became a doctor so that he could always be of service and at least get a chicken or something to feed his family. So that was why he became a doctor. So he would have something, he could save someone's life and be able to feed his family. Which we all, in the end, that's what we all want to do, right? So can you blame anyone for being unhappy if they don't have enough money to feed their family or put their children through
because
school?
The human instinct, first and foremost, is to survive.
Yeah.
You need to survive before you save others.
And we as a society need to support the people who do have special knowledge, because otherwise we have the brain drain. These skilled people will leave the country and we'll lose the whatever skills we have. And I think the brain drain is the biggest thing that's really stripping the continent of resource. It's human resource. It's not minerals. That's not what's the main theft. It's when people want to leave the country because they can't earn enough. And it breaks my heart because I know the government doesn't have enough money to do everything it wants to do and to do everything that the public wants to do. And it's just, we're in a tough situation. The country wants to...
How to balance now?
And how fast?
How our priorities?
What do we make our priorities? And then how much should we expect the government to do? And how much could be done maybe if we unleashed more of the private sector? Like for example,
some of these things.
Like this COVID crisis, there's enough in Ugandan investment clubs that if 2 or 3 of them joined together, they could have bought an oxygen factory just from Alibaba. and made money selling oxygen, right? I think it was $40,000 or $50,000 to buy an oxygen factory that would be big enough to supply a mid-range clinic or hospital. But instead, people invest their money in fancy stuff like Land Cruisers and whatnot, and when instead, if they invested in something necessary like an oxygen factory. But it wasn't just Uganda. This is all throughout the continent. This even happened in India. People just didn't see this as a necessity, and so they didn't invest and move on it. Now, one of the problems with a pandemic is that people are afraid to invest because they don't know how long it will last. If it's very short and you invest and then it's over, then how do you make your money? So that's one of the real problems with pandemics. So,
Okay, so Joel, we're happy that you came to this show. We're about to close this segment. We try to create awareness about the concealed dangers of counterfeits, fakes, and there is always a big challenge to interest people in this subject because many people don't think it's important, don't think it's their problem. Maybe it affects other people. Why do you think this attitude persists?
well, I think there's some parts of society that are very concerned about counterfeits.
Which part is that?
I think it tends to be the urban working and middle classes that tend to be more aware that they are getting drugs that are of low quality or other products of lower quality. We see that with everything, electronics, you name it.
So middle class, you're saying, is more concerned about
More
this.
concerned. I think working class too, but as you get into the poorer people, they're just happy to get whatever taste they can of a better life. And
So if somebody, you're saying, if somebody struggles to get a meal, it matters less the quality of the meal. The most important thing is that I got a meal.
Yeah.
So if you're telling them that, well, the meal has this or it's not good quality, that is secondary.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Yes. And
So are you saying poverty is a big driver as to why people may not pay attention easily
Yeah, I think so. I
and
think
just consume the fakes anyway?
because they're grateful to have any little taste of what it promises to do, and they had to pay less. If it was a better quality product, it would be more expensive.
But even the poor people don't want to die.
Of course
So
not.
if a poor person who is hungry was told that that drink you're going to take is poisonous, will hurt your liver, they will still not take it because they know they can die.
If they are informed.
So don't you think lack of awareness, even
Well, it's
for the
hard.
poor or rich, lack of awareness is what is driving counterfeiting?
Of course, but we live in a society where the products are complex, right? Whether it's a chemical product, whether it's lotions.
You can't
or-
differentiate.
How can somebody find out unless they had their own laboratory and knew how to understand the results? Even when you buy lousy electronics equipment, right? And your power charger goes dead within a few months when it should have lasted a few years, right? How would you know? Are you going to take it apart and see that they didn't put that many copper
So the
wires?
key thing you're saying now is that we should all come together, if I'm a manufacturer, I'm a distributor, to help people differentiate between the genuine and fake, irrespective of class. That then will help whoever it is, rich or poor, to make an informed decision. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I think the more curious people get, the better.
The better.
And if they learn, I mean, people are learning lots of things now, right? This country is radically changing. The motor revolution is just sweeping the country, right? People are now learning how motors work, right? All these mechanics that are getting skills that they never had. And we're going to have to develop our chemistry knowledge so that people can analyze what's in something. People need to be able to understand electronics and that a cable
That way you have a chance to stop. Okay, Joel, I'm told we must stop here.
All right.
You have a very, very impressive CV. You speak Spanish, Hebrew, Japanese, and local languages. So can we have now a challenge? I would like you to wish a Merry Christmas to our viewers. Maybe you start in Hebrew, I don't know, Japanese, local.
Well, how about if I just greet them? I don't know how to say.
You don't know how
Christmas.
to.
I know how to say it in Spanish.
Okay.
And other languages.
What to
Feliz
them?
Navidad.
That's what language?
That's Spanish. Feliz Navidad is, festive birth. It's the Navidad is the nativity, so it's celebrating the nativity in
Hebrew.
Spanish. I don't know how to say Merry Christmas in Hebrew. That's
Okay,
funny.
maybe say greetings to us.
But how about I'll just greet everybody? Musibiya mutia banyabo nevasebo. I can greet in many
Swahili.
languages. Habari yako. Kopango. Iriaber. Akironyo.
So this
Mulembe.
is Mulembe. That is Gishu.
And then Amakuru Yahweh for the Mufumbira, Agandi, Rireji.
No, we need to watch out. We need to check out why you know all these languages. I think we shall have another show for Joel to tell us what he's looking for, knowing all these languages. But we're happy to have you here, and we are going into a Christmas break, but we shall continue producing. We would like to have a counterfeit-free Christmas. Please be careful. Whatever you are buying or shopping, don't support the counterfeiter. Be on the lookout for the genuine products, because counterfeits can harm you both in the pocket and your health. We should not forget to thank you for always following us. The hashtag is League of the Genuine Anti-Counterfeit Network. We shall continue normal service even during the holiday, because there is no resting when you are fighting counterfeit. So don't be fake, buy and sell genuine always.